Hey everyone, I'm Christian Rasmussen with the Exodus Group, and this is Keeping It Simple, where I'm taking complicated financial matters and making them simple. I see a lot of misinformation out there from real estate agents, and if you just Google it online, you'll get a lot of misinformation as well, where people want to know how they can buy their next house while using the equity in their current house without selling their current house ahead of time so that they don't end up without a home. I get this question a lot, and I help a lot of people work through it. And I want to give you guys the truth of the matter rather than just tell you what helps people get business. And so the easiest, best way to do that, by far, the only way that doesn't cost you a bunch of money, is to borrow money from a friend or family member, which a lot of us don't have that option. A lot of people can't do that. And so there's a few different ways we can do it. The fact of the matter is when you do that, you're transferring risk. So you're getting rid of risk. And that always, always, always costs you money. And so it's going to cost you thousands of dollars in order to mitigate that risk, which is okay in some situations if people are averse to risk and don't want to do that. What I like to do is I like to try to mitigate that so I get those costs down as much as possible while transferring as much of that risk as the client is comfortable. And so I wanted to give you the reality of a few different ways that you can do that. Obviously, the first one is borrowing money from a friend or family member. The second is called a bridge loan. That's where you borrow money from your current house in order to make a down payment on your next house. A big thing with that is you have to be able to afford both payments for a little while, right? Because somebody's taking that risk of owning both houses at the exact same time. I found the best way to do it, there's a few different ways to do it, is to list your current house and then do what's called a lease back, right? Where we ask for a longer escrow period, 45 to 60 day escrow period until closing, and then you ask for 60 to 90 days for a lease back. And what that is it's trying to it's finding a buyer who has some flexibility. And again, this is going to cost money because we have to find a special kind of buyer. And so the best way for me to help people most of the time is get them to assume a little bit more risk than they're comfortable with, get their house on the market, get it sold, get a longer escrow period, go out and find a house. And always, always, always I tell people, when we take a minute, when we slow down, when we ask God what He wants us to do, and then we take steps of faith, it works out all the time in the long run. Now, 95% of the time it works out perfect, and I get one closing date, and they sell their current house, and they move into their next house, and they close on the exact same day. Sometimes, and I've done this lots of times, sometimes there's short periods of discomfort, right, that end up saving them tens of thousands of dollars. And so if they're able to do 30 days, right, in a 30 days of discomfort, right, typically will save people tens of thousands of dollars. And so and usually they're upset at me for that 30 days, but in the end they end up better off. And I talk to them 6 months later and they're so happy they did it. They're so happy that I encourage them to take that risk. And again, that's a very small percentage of the time that risk happens. So a few different ways for you to sell your current house, buy another house, and buy the other house first before you sell your house. First is borrowing money from a friend. Second is what's called a bridge loan. The best way to do it is to sell your house and get like a lease back option. Another thing that I've done with some clients is sell our house contingent on us finding another house, which doesn't work a whole lot of time if you have a savvy real estate agent on the other side, or somebody's just a little bit more knowledgeable about the market and what it's doing. It's usually a bad deal for the buyer to buy a house because a lot of times they're selling their current house and it transfers a bunch of risk onto them. And sometimes they'll assume a lot of that risk for a very, very small amount of money. And that's usually the cheapest way to go about it. But if you have any questions about this, you can give me a call anytime, 615-423-7718. I'd love to talk to you about it. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.